Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, we are live. We are tanned. Back from ETH Miami. We are. Look at that. Look at all of us.
Yeah, we are.
And what a time we had in Miami. Thanks to everybody who came out to support and meet each other. It was a great time. I unfortunately had to come back home to 30-degree temperatures, which is why I've got the hat on representing the unicorn themselves, the very, very handily rich Uniswap protocol. Jangle, how are you, sir? I like that shirt you're wearing. What a flex that is.
I'm doing great. I am not too far away from Miami, so temperature's not too different. I'll be back soon to Miami, so that's exciting. But yeah, had a good time meeting everybody in person. A lot of people I'm sure that are watching the stream I saw, so hey, what's up? Excited for our next event in Denver at the end of February, early March. Are we going to the hackathon too? Is that the plan? I assume not everybody's going to the hackathon, but I kind of want to go.
We probably will, yeah.
We probably will. Okay, cool.
Well, if you're sponsoring bounties, you got to come to the hackathon.
Yeah,
that's true.
What do we need built?
What don't we need built?
Should we sponsor?
Imagine this, Jangle. Imagine if there was just a single website that you could go to. And through that one website, you could access every protocol, every position, every liquidity protocol, cross-chain, interoperable, trustless.
So you want to build a wallet?
Actually, I think software wallets are pretty interesting play right now. We've talked to some interesting people that are working on those solutions.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can just enter protocol straight from your wallet.
Seems a little oversaturated. I think Coinbase and MetaMask and Consensus and Rappi, I think they got it. I don't want to compete with them. They got it.
I'm sure we can think of something.
Doesn't DeFi Llama do that?
I want to give back to the devs. I want to meet the devs.
MetaMask now has a new protocol that's in beta, I think, where you could build third-party apps and integrate them into MetaMask. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but that's definitely a thing. So maybe we could do something there.
Are you talking
so
about
it's just like you integrate like a UI in MetaMask, or like the smart contracts are still like on chain, right? It's not like applications running in.
Yeah, exactly. MetaMask. Yeah, so it's just functionality that you can build into MetaMask itself.
Are you talking
just
about
as user interface that you can build inside of MetaMask to access the functionality that's on chain?
Oh. All right.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it snaps, but
what's that? What snaps, Chris?
Snaps is they're just extensions. I mean, it being a software wallet, the snaps I believe are built in JavaScript. And if you're using MetaMask, you can use them to do a variety of things. We've talked about it on several of our calls where we've used them to. There's a couple of groups that are using it to, like Eric Voorhees has Shapeshift. That's integrated into Snaps, and you can do one-click staking into multiple chains using Thorchain. It's also hit the Bitcoin Lightning Network as well. So a lot of cool things out there. A lot of
some cool shit we can do with that.
I agree.
May I? I have an idea.
Okay.
Now, you guys may hate this idea. Maybe like, this is terrible.
Can't wait to FUD it.
Imagine if there was a MetaMask extension where if you went to a protocol, you would know, you'd get like a like or dislike from all of us. It could be the Beacon extension and be like, yeah, Jangle's in this farm.
Oh, like a risk rating, but not really a risk rating, just like a thumbs up or thumbs down, like a like to dislike ratio on the protocol or something.
Sure.
Is this like a Reddit type of thing where
you lose so much nuance? So
voting and downvoting?
Can it be a star rating instead of a binary up or down?
Well, in my knowledge, in my opinion, like the most authentic way to not be a financial advisor on the internet and not give financial advice is to share
us. We're not financial advisors.
We're not.
On the internet. Yeah.
But if you ask nicely, we may tell you what if we're in something or not. So that is like my thought for like the Boolean. We're not saying it's good. We're not saying it's bad. We're saying whether we have our own hard-earned Satoshis and Vitaliks in that particular position.
Yeah, my Sats and Gwei, where are they at? I mean, they're in Uniswap, they're in GMX, they're in Liquidity.
You're gonna have a lot of thumbs downs. I mean,
a
that's
little
just how
bit
it is.
Radiant, I think. Am I missing anything? I think that's everything.
I feel like a nursery rhyme, like Little Miss Muffet sat in her tuffet eating her Sats and Gwei.
That's so good. Yeah, that's good.
That's a
that.
bar.
That's a bar. Clip that.
I will clip that.
Please.
Thank you. All right.
This is too busy. Somebody else clip it. But by the way, what are we, like 5 minutes in or something? I don't know.
Tell them what to do, buddy.
Great cold open. You guys already know what button to hit. Hit the like. Appreciate you. Trying to tell you a little bit earlier so you get around to it. If you're watching the recording, hey, it's not too late. Be the change you wish to see on the Beacon live stream and hit that like button, because we got 8 people in here and only 5 likes. That's whack. So, all right. Thanks everybody. We can go to content now.
Well, speaking of content, I mean, there is a birthday. What's a belated birthday? But 15 years ago yesterday, the Bitcoin Whitepaper was released in 2008 amidst a global financial crisis. Is what happened with the original paper from Satoshi Nakamoto talking about a peer-to-peer payment electronic cash system. Now, that P2P part never quite happened, but it did start a revolution, I guess, that we are all.
I mean, it is peer-to-peer. Like,
true. True.
Send us some Bitcoin right now.
Yeah. So it's talking about where we are 15 years later from this paper. I mean, BTC is a recognized currency in multiple countries, with El Salvador leading the way. BTC has dedicated ATM networks. Don't use them because the fees are stupid bad. The U.S. government holds $5 billion in Bitcoin and cold storage. That's mainly seized from raids and whatnot, but
their incentives are aligned to the moon, right?
Flight to quality. Is he not wrong? Dan Carbonell with the flight to quality comment.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Larry Fink.
That was pretty crazy. There is no second best except for ETH, which is actually the first best. So,
I just want to get some takes. Any thoughts on where we are 15 years later from when that paper first came out?
I saw a tweet from Mike Ippolito that said Bitcoin turns 15 the same day the Bank of Japan abandons its 1% yield curve control upper band. You couldn't write a better script if you tried.
I saw that.
That's a banger. So we're a lot further down the fiat destruction timeline than we were 15 years ago. Bitcoin is, a significant macro asset now, with the largest asset managers in the world trying to get exposure and create financial products for it. The only thing stopping it is a little bit of regulatory red tape, but that's, about to be busted through, like the Kool-Aid man breaking into your house. And I think we're really on the precipice of the next cycle. We're 6 months away from the halving. We're 100% up on the year. This, you couldn't write a better script. So, man, I hope you're ready. I hope your mind is right. I hope your skills are on point. I hope you've been building your network through the bear. And I hope you're buckled in. So it's going to be a pretty crazy ride for the next couple of years.
Well, one thing I want to mention, Jangle, during our time in Miami last week is, you mentioned more than once, and actually I think it's probably on our Mastermind Friday call, that we're pretty much in the beginning of a structural bull market.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but objectively speaking, I mean, we're up 100% on the year. We're holding 20-week and 200-week of moving averages as support, and I'm not a TA guy. I'm not a trader, but we're 6 months away from the halving. And, we've been grinding up for a while. It feels like we're in the disbelief stage of the market. What is it? You guys know what I'm talking about, the market psychology. I'm trying to find a link to it to drop it so we can share the screen. But the Wall Street cheat sheet, psychology of a market. I'm trying to find it real quick. And, it feels like we're kind of in the disbelief stage where I'll link it in our internal chat. Maybe you can share it where, we've gone through the denial, the panic, the capitulation, the anger, the depression. And it seems like everybody is kind of in disbelief saying, hey, I'll buy this pullback. I'll buy this pullback. I'll buy, the next pullback or whatever. So not to say that, we can't revisit 25K, 20K, like it's certainly possible, but, we're up 100% on the year. Everybody here has been accumulating for a while. And we're 6 months away from the halving. Where most of the hawkishness from the central banks, I think, is behind us. Maybe we have one more rate hike in us, but the vast majority of rate hikes are likely behind us. And the economy is as strong as ever, really. Like Main Street's just been taking these rate hikes right to the face, doesn't really care. The American economy is very strong. It's just hard to be bearish, man. Like everything's great. What do you do?
Any takes, Andrew?
Flight to quality. Can't build a meme better than what Mr. Fink gave us. There's been a drastic sentiment shift, like over the last 4 weeks. I feel like if I wasn't as tuned in as I am, it would be very easy to miss. Because, while the mainstream media is focusing on just like the FTX trial and Hamas, flight to quality, happening in 6 months, inflation still not great, that's my thoughts. It's just like, it feels obvious to me, and that is also like why I'm also skeptical. I'm still in my disbelief stage. But I also wonder if it's just that I've been around longer and the patterns now feel obvious. But that can be a trap. I mean, I'm dealing with my my personal my own personal psychology, and we can speculate all the time, and we can also look for patterns, and sometimes humans just find patterns when they don't exist. So it's also something I'm skeptical of, just because we're like, in my mind, we're pattern identifying animals. But the technicals are true that Jangle is mentioning. I agree with the technicals. The macro over the next 6 to 12 months just seems so obviously good. My only concern is that it didn't feel like we ever reached complete capitulation of, hey, crypto's done.
What? We totally did, 1,000 times over. Like, all of my relatives were literally calling me on the phone, like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need a job? Like, yes, we did. Like, people, like total normies who know nothing about crypto were like, oh, it's over, right? It's over. Like, the timeline, like people that you spent time with in the bull market that were like constantly on Discord, like super involved in the industry, like 9 out of 10 of them gone, right? Either totally checked out or literally wiped out, right? Like, we had the largest, well, one of the largest international exchanges, giant fraud, like one of the largest allocators in Alameda, freaking 3 Arrows Capital, like all the CeFi lenders, all forced sellers. Like, we literally wicked so hard down on mass liquidation events. Like there was the most blood in the streets I've ever seen. Like, we are not going back there this cycle. Who is left to sell that wasn't a forced seller a year ago? Nobody.
So I'm coming around to your opinion now, but just to me at the time a year ago, that felt like the jab to me. And based on previous cycles and just looking for patterns where there doesn't have to be one, it felt like that was the jab, and I was waiting for the cross. And the cross never came.
The cross was FTX. The jab was Luna. It caused mass and GBTC and the GBTC discount. The GBTC discount and the blowing up of Luna and UST wrecked a lot of crypto firms. And we saw that play out, that contagion ripple through the markets, seep into everybody's balance sheets. We saw a lot of people commit fraud and misrepresent their balance sheets trying to raise money while there was still some venture interest left in the space. And then it all came crashing down when, what was it, like Cointelegraph, whoever published Alameda's balance sheet, I forget who it was, and then we realized that, like, oh my gosh, like the block is on FTX's payroll. Like, Alameda has been stealing customer funds from FTX. Like, there's a bank run on FTX, and the largest exchange industry drops. Like, boom, giant wick down, mass liquidations, mass capitulation, all on chain leverage, absolutely wiped out. Like, we had it. That was the flush out. That was the absolute capitulation. And then we've been in the disbelief stage in the accumulation period for all this year. And like, who is left in this industry that is selling at 30K, at 25K, besides traders? Like, yeah, there are people, and we saw that with the Cointelegraph fake news, right? There are people who are in the industry, who are in crypto, who are sidelined and who are waiting to reallocate back in. And that's why these rallies in these like pre-halving and like during this part of the cycle are so painful, because there are always people who are like believers and active in the industry who are waiting to buy back in because they want to buy back in lower and they're afraid. And bull markets climb a wall of worry. They climb a wall of worry, and we are climbing the wall of worry. Like, all of the forced sellers were forced out. They were, they capitulated, leverage was wiped out. Like, we have these bankruptcy procedures that are liquidating coins. Like, if there were people who were going to sell, they sold, right? Everybody who was going to sell sold, right? There's not a lot. And I mean, we're looking at this with Solana right now. Like, Solana is absolutely giga ripping, even though it has this giant overhang of this FTX bankruptcy over its head. Like, people want to buy. People
That's
want to
not
be
crazy
bullish.
to you?
That is crazy to me. That is crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're going out buying Solana.
No, I'm not. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'd rather get my exposure elsewhere, especially at like $40. Like, sure, I'll buy Solana at like $10, and maybe I'll be totally miffed that I like missed it during the accumulation period. I mean, I have like a very small amount. If it runs to like $1,000 Solana, it'll still be like, I'll still do okay on it. But like, it's very little, sub 1% of my portfolio, even at current prices. So like, but that's not the game I'm playing. But anyway, like, all I'm saying is that these rallies, they climb a wall of worry, and like, I do not see us revisiting $1,000 ETH. I do not see us revisiting 15K Bitcoin, because the conditions that brought us there were so absolutely insane. Everybody who would have sold then, right? So and it's not like we're having a recession where people are forced to sell their coins to feed their families. Like, the economy is very strong. Like, unemployment is low. GDP growth, real GDP growth is high, right? We're not seeing the consumer have a lot of pain, right? So who's selling these coins? They're not. Newsflash, they're not. You want a new low, you're not getting it, right? Fuck you.
I do want to differentiate between crypto markets, and I don't agree with you that we've sort of seen the end of a recession that never really started yet. I still think there's a lot of pain to come in TradFi markets, and in order for crypto to continue on this way up, it will need to maintain that being cut away from traditional markets, which historically has not been the case.
I'm not talking about TradFi. I'm talking about specifically Bitcoin and by way of its relation and correlation to Bitcoin, ETH, and then maybe eventually some alts. But I'm talking specifically about Bitcoin. And then I believe that, ETH over the next 2 years, 3 years will outperform Bitcoin, even though it might be for the next 12 months, it might be Bitcoin that continues to dominate the crypto market. Maybe the next 3 months, maybe the next 6 months, maybe the next 12, I don't know. But I'm speaking predominantly about Bitcoin, and I believe it will decouple from TradFi going over the next 8 months, 9 months, 12 months.
This is like a little bit of a weird transition, but I want you guys' take on this, specifically yours, Jangle, if you don't mind. So just go along this thought experiment with me. Bitcoin ETF. More older folks start to buy, more institutional capital starts to buy. Parabolic bull run like never seen before, fueled by new money coming in.
And regulatory certainty, because now that there's a Bitcoin ETF, the United States can be okay with people owning it because they can control their access to it and regulate it. Yeah.
So what happens during the coming bear market after the current bull market? Do ETF owners panic sell because their new crypto exposure and it crashes hard? They feel pain that they haven't felt before.
People will sell eventually. They'll get bearish again, but that is
so. Are we adding are we going to be adding more volatility into the next cycle?
No, volatility. Like it is a pretty safe assumption that volatility reduces each cycle, both to the upside and the downside. Relative.
Even with this sort of influx of new money from a new source.
I don't think it's like this giant influx of new money. I mean, there will be probably a few $100 billion that buys Bitcoin during the next cycle that otherwise wouldn't have had access to it and therefore probably wouldn't have bought it. Maybe it's 100 billion, maybe it's 900 billion. Like it's probably somewhere in there. But overall, like as the market size grows, as it gains lendiness, as Bitcoin claims its rightful seat as a macro risk off flight to quality asset, like its volatility reduces, just like gold is like the most boring asset ever. That will be Bitcoin. Like in 10 years, if you own Bitcoin, it's going to be boring. And that's what Bitcoin deserves, to be absolutely boring, because that's what it is. It's boring. It's a digital rock, right? And that's great. I love it. I love gold. I love Bitcoin even more, right? That's a year ago, I was saying like, I will be euphoric when there is geopolitical instability in the world and gold is up, equities are down, and Bitcoin is up with gold, right? That is like the future that we are hoping for Bitcoin to be the risk off asset. And gold historically does poorly, like when rates are high, because you have an alternative. Like you have a risk off asset where you can get real yield on US dollars, like staked US tokens. That hurts gold. Like that should hurt Bitcoin as well, right? Like we want to see a higher correlation between gold and Bitcoin than traditional equities and Bitcoin, because that is the asset class that Bitcoin deserves to be in. That's really what Bitcoin is. It's the risk off flight to quality hard money asset. Now, like I view other crypto assets, like certain, tokens that are maybe more representative of like equity or things like ETH as like tech growth sort of platforms, right? Like there's like, you might want to be like long Apple because of the App Store, or like, I don't know, any high growth tech stock. That's more the category I view ETH. And I think the market doesn't really see it that way right now, or especially a year ago, but the market's beginning to coalesce around that being the consensus view, where Bitcoin's the flight to quality. Bitcoin used to trade at a very high correlation to the NASDAQ. Like it used to just be like NASDAQ coin, right? Remember during, 2021 and in 2022 and everything, it was a very high correlation to the NASDAQ. We're not seeing that as much anymore, right? Like now that correlation is waning, its correlation to gold is increasing. So that makes more sense to me. So I think it's really fair to bet on that. That's my opinion. Yeah. And I just don't understand how anybody could be bearish on it over the next couple of years, because we have like the trade, like the backdrop of the trade is perfect. The market was flushed out, all leverage gone, tons of forced sellers, right? Absolutely giga wrecked. And then you have this macro backdrop that, you know, a fiscal situation that is absolutely just depraved, like literally makes no sense. And you've got like a resilient economy where it looks like we're, you know, the market is pricing in more and more likely, you know, some sort of soft landing, or there doesn't seem to be a lot of like pain on Main Street. It just seems like the backdrop of the century to be freaking long Bitcoin, in my opinion, ETH, which might not outperform over the next 6 months, but will likely outperform over the next 3 years. It just seems so obvious. Like maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like the most obvious trade of my life.
Did you go down the right path there with him, Andrew?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back, Bullish Jangle. It's been a minute. It's great to have you back. I mean, you're always bullish, ETH, but the time, it's nice to see, you know, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be 3 years, 2 years, you know, this will be it's now.
It's now. I love it. It's been the last year, right? It's been the last year, except, you know, you don't know what's the bear market rally and what's truly the bottom. And just like looking at all the forced selling that's occurred over the last 2 years, like I just, there would need to be a catastrophic event, a crazy event for us to revisit the cycle lows, I think.
Which could
you
happen,
give me
right?
I mean, yeah, but pessimists don't get rich. I mean, I think over the long term, being an optimist is much more closely aligned to being a realist than being a pessimist is. I think it's really easy to just, for lack of a better term, circle jerk on doomerism. And like, yeah, the doomers get to be right every now and then, but the optimists and the realists, they get to be rich.
Yeah, historically, if you've been long in markets, you've always done better than being short. Yeah, by a large margin.
This is something that I feel, you know, I'm not going to pretend to be Michael Burry, but there's a bit of me that like does see things in the world where it's like things that have like never happened before, things that are completely different and potentially extreme, both on the doomer side and on the optimist side, seem more possible to me than they did over the last 10 years. So this is things such as advancements in AI leading to heightened tension between world powers. You know, we had an underground nuclear test for the first time in the United States since I don't know how long. Pretty sure during my life, the first time in my life, probably. And I don't feel like the world is becoming a more peaceful place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that Mark.
But if that thesis, and I agree, it's the probability of more intense geopolitical conflict is increasing over the last few years. And there's always a possibility of, nuclear conflict, and not all nuclear conflict has to be like large scale. Like you could have very small scale tactical use of nuclear weapons if a particular nation feels backed up against a wall, and there's the option of defeat or engaging, the hitting the button, right? Like, so I agree that went from maybe a very low, maybe like a 1% chance to a 3% chance or something, like maybe something like that, right? In that world, what do you own? Do you own the dollar?
Farmland in North America, and you invest maybe you invest everything in the reshoring of industry, because global shipping and global trade could get a lot more high risk if we move away from the post-World War II order of U.S. hegemony over worldwide trading markets. But I don't think that's necessarily like a next 10-year thing. Like the only thing that they can really moves that up in my mind is like just wild thing if like China gets a breakthrough on fusion technology, AGI, so like strong AI for military purposes, or another like major technology that like allows things to get more competitive, and that feels unlikely but possible, right?
Yeah, I think it is unlikely but possible that the next 10 to 15 years are defined predominantly by war. I think that the next 10 to 15 years will be defined predominantly by immense technological innovation and hopefully a drastic increase in energy availability. So a drastic reduction in the cost of energy and a massive increase in compute power and a reduction in the cost of compute and a exponential explosion in the usefulness of software like crypto and AI. So cheap energy, cheap compute, way better technology, massive prosperity, right? So like that's what I think will define the next 10 to 15 years. And so I want to be like exposed to crypto majors and scarce assets and equities. And I want to hold, enough US tokens, enough staked US tokens so that I don't have to worry about anything. Right. So it's almost like a barbell strategy. That's my thought process. In the event that I'm wrong and those things, maybe they happen, but the next 10 years to 15 years is really defined by conflict. In that case, like we will see hyperinflation, right? We're in times of peace, we've been grossly mismanaging the fiscal situation and we have a parabolic interest expense. You add large scale conflict to that. And, I don't think that the sense of national pride is there so you can really shill war bonds to people, right? I think you will have the central bank stepping in and buying lots of bonds to expand the money supply to fund a war effort, right? Because we've already depleted a lot of resources just fighting these proxy wars over the last year or two. So,
and if that does happen, that should be good for crypto, right?
Yes, exactly my point. In that case, like Bitcoin moons, right? You said farmland, like farmland, sure. The reality is farmland's going to go up, but it's all scarce assets. It's all scarce assets. Now, farmland is a productive asset, so that's cool. Might be more Warren Buffett style, but I think enough people recognize Bitcoin and crypto as sovereign money with sound, algorithmic monetary policy. That if there is hyperinflation and large scale war, then then that would be terrible for the world, but it would be excellent for Bitcoin, and not to mention the amount of people that would be displaced by large scale war. And the number one way to protect your assets and move them from country to country is by self-custodying crypto and memorizing a seed phrase. And you can literally travel with your entire net worth sitting in your brain, right?
Brain wallet.
Yeah. So
better than paper wallet.
That is honestly the most apparent and obvious use case of crypto is like a sovereign stateless money. And in a world where every single state is hyperinflating to fund war efforts and people are being displaced due to conflict, like Bitcoin is the best asset to hold for a lot of people in the world. So that I hope that doesn't happen. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm saying in the event that does happen, like crypto still disproportionately benefits. So like, I'm cool with just like the barbell, like risk on, and then enough T-bills to pay the bills.
Awesome. I really enjoyed that talk, actually. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and move forward just because kind of adjacent, right? We have a Fed meeting today. Looks like it's just going to be fairly paused. I don't think we'll see too much out there. Gabe, I wanted to get your take on how you think what's going on specifically with the Fed and also with Japan could be affecting these markets moving forward.
I think the Fed meeting today is likely kind of boring. I think they're gonna stay at the same rate they're currently at. I don't think we're gonna see any big market reactions due to that because it's what people are expecting. It's what they've been saying for a while now. Yeah, higher for longer.
Higher for longer. Anybody has an additional take on this? I know it's not the biggest news of the week, but it is something that people will be watching.
Okay, but you got to have more to say than that. I mean, I don't have much to say.
I've been away from my computer for a week, so I haven't been doing too much reading on it. I mean, even in this article, it says virtually no chance they'll make a move either way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll be seeing any easing. If anything, it'll just be more of a monitoring to see how, just to kind of curb inflation, right? Because numbers are coming in from September. We should see an interesting, batch of news coming through soon, which I don't think it'll really give an indicator either way. But I don't think they'll be making any moves this month, at least. Possibly next month we could see another hike, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Wasn't there an announcement from the government about refinancing some of their debt? Which, I mean, we've been saying that's coming. I think that's probably
I personally haven't seen
bigger
that
news than this.
Yeah, but people do like to, harp on this. I mean, this is a 2-day meeting that concludes today with them. So I guess we'll see, where we go from here. Let's see. All right, cool. Gonna do a little PSA. Again, this is something we reported about easily 6 months ago. Again, if you use LastPass, if you ever use LastPass, hopefully you had a really good password, because on the 25th of October, more than 4.4 million got drained from a bunch of accounts, probably from people who, stored seed phrases and passwords in the secure notes, which is a bit of an unencrypted blob. The password vault, I think, is fine as long as you had a good password, you're salted, and it'll take them a long time. Either way, probably a good idea. If you have anything linked to this stuff, it's time to migrate your assets to a new seed phrase wallet. Along with this, we also have Taylor from Chain Abuse also coming through with just some of these other wallets that have been reported as something that could be really, really big. But yeah, this is a big deal. Unfortunately, if you bought into the trust that some of these services had, you definitely want to be making your way and moving to a much more secure solution. Obviously, storing your seed phrase locally on Archive Link, variety of different devices that are out there. Anybody have a take on this before we move on?
If you ever put a private key into a cloud-based password manager, especially LastPass, disregard that private key. Do not put funds in that secured.
Yep, you are looking to be drained at some point.
And I was a previous LastPass user. I've gone and migrated to other password managers. And during that migration process, yes, it's a headache, but it's a bigger headache than changing your passwords, getting hacked, right? It's a way bigger headache. So, be a big boy and change your passwords, or girl, or big, or zer, or whatever, and change your passwords and migrate them to another password manager and get two-factor authentication with a YubiKey or with an application with TOTP, and do all that. And so that way you can participate in the next bull run that is now upon us without getting wrecked. Because that's the worst, to see your bags moon, but they belong to some hacker now. Like, you don't want that. So change your stuff. Don't use private keys that were stored in compromised password managers, you dingus.
And probably don't store your seed phrase in password managers ever.
Yes, don't. I mean, maybe if it's just like some degen wallet you don't care about, perhaps. But yeah, no. If it's any wallet that you don't want to lose the funds, then don't store it anywhere digitally, including password managers. And yeah.
Also, don't store it in plain text on your computer. Don't type it into your computer. Like, why do these things? Just generate it on a hardware wallet.
Physical only.
And if you're writing something down, don't have it on camera. Just like it's not hard. It's like, you do it the right way once, and you have peace of mind. Just do it the right way once, and it'll save you a lot of hassle.
I agree. I mean, we even had someone, who kind of was like, what would they ever want with my money, right? And they were actually, they actually took a photo of their seed phrase with their phone, and they were shocked when they actually got hacked.
Oh, I think
they're
I
like,
They'll
remember
take
this.
any money they can get.
they'll
Yeah,
take
no,
any money they can get.
your money, your whoever's money, my money.
I mean, a couple $1,000s is enough to buy groceries and rent for some of these terrible, terrible people.
Oh yeah, yes, but I mean, depending on where you come from, like a couple $1,000s is like
that's a lot of
a
money.
lot of money to some people.
Why would anyone ever want to rob my house? I just leave the door open.
Do you like breeze?
Honestly,
Do you
like
breezes? Get
robbing
poor air
robbing a house
circulation?
is kind of scary. Wrecking somebody when you have their seed phrases is it's fairly, it's not very personal. You don't have to go through their underwear drawer. You just move some bits around.
All right, we'll move on. One thing that we had in the lead up to this is talking about LayerZero. LayerZero, well known as a cross-chain liquidity protocol, a messaging service with Stargate, their liquidity layer on top. It's a messaging protocol. That's what LayerZero is, but very big part of Web3. They're actually in a little bit of controversy. And the reason for that is mainly because of something that they announced back on the 25th. That being, Lido Staked ETH is now an omni-chain fungible token, meaning they have a pool of just that will now be available to all chains connected via LayerZero, adding Base, Scroll, BNB chain, and Avalanche to that mix. There's just one little problem with this, is that they didn't run this by the Lido DAO. So they had put a proposal in to the Lido DAO to make this happen. Wasn't a lot of traction there, maybe, or just not enough traction for them to be patient, and they front ran the DAO, putting it live. Binance also,
I mean, they
followed
can
suit.
do whatever they want.
Exactly, right. So that's the point that's of contention here. So it's a little bit of controversy, right? So we're in a world
A little
that's
bit BM, but I
trustless.
mean, it's on-chain assets. If people don't
Yeah.
want to use the service, they don't have to. But equally, they can implement the service if they want.
Exactly. So ultimately, that's an issue, right? It's like, thinking about it now, it's like, well, anyone with a big enough pool or enough money can do this. So how do you handle such things if you are a DAO? Here, and I'll put, these will be in the show notes, but Yako, one of the big contributors to Lido, came out with a specific address on, talking about, while he would have preferred that they had waited for the DAO to specifically vote on it. I mean, it's not going to be an official endorsement from them on how to, move wrap stake ETH around.
Yeah, they probably burned some bridges doing this.
Oh yeah, let's talk about 9 of them.
But
Connext, which has this unified call for open bridge standards, and they are taking LayerZero to task for this by, saying that bridges should not try and front run proprietary standards for this. And this is signed by them. This is signed by Sigma, ChainSafe, Lie.fi, who runs Jumper, Across, Socket, who also got STIP money from ARB, Seller, Router, and Hashi. All big cross-chain swap and bridge protocols. So, this what seemed like, okay, yeah, of course you can do that because it's a trustless, permissionless system. I guess it's a matter of, should you do that? And what's interesting is that you now have a shifting precedent, I guess, because now maybe Connext in this group of 9 comes up with their own standard that could be in competition with LayerZero, to the point where we might now see some fragmentation of Lido Stake ETH out there in Web3. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, I think the free market will rapidly coalesce around a standard, and that will become the standard. If the Lido DAO and most liquidity and most users prefer a certain standard, then all LayerZero is doing here is like hurting their reputation and wasting their time. And if LayerZero's solution is truly better and is now like first to market kind of in a way, then they'll win. And it won't matter what anybody else thinks, right?
And they probably think they have that in the bag. Otherwise, they likely wouldn't have deployed, right? Time will
That's a
tell.
great question. Time will tell, I think. Andrew, any takes on this?
Not really. I don't feel. I feel like I would have to do more research to really have an opinion.
Fair enough.
You know, thus far it has felt like the LayerZero team has been incredibly responsible. So for me, it's kind of like a trust but verify situation where unless I verify and I'm like, I don't need to describe trust but verify. Yeah, I don't know. I would defer to the opinions that you guys have on this unless doing other research.
Yeah, I definitely see the concern here that if you have liquidity on a layer 2, you're supposed to have like a trustless way to abort back to the L1, and you lose that with the LayerZero solution, and that you require some trust in LayerZero. But I see, the value in not fragmenting liquidity is very high. But like at the end of the day, trusting LayerZero as like a trusted signer across all different execution layers for like shared liquidity with these OFTs is just like not an acceptable solution to me. But like there were times during the last bull market, like the early stages of the last bull market, where I was like a decentralization like maxi, and it definitely like caused me to miss some things like Binance Smart Chain. So like the market, especially like in a bull market, doesn't always care exactly what the best and most decentralized solution is. And like if it solves a real problem, like Binance Smart Chain solved like a lack of block space problem, and LayerZero is solving like a fragmented liquidity problem. Those are both really big problems to solve. And yes, their solutions are like kind of shit. But like at the end of the day, like once it's a bull market, most people literally can't tell like shit from sherbet, to say it with candidly. So
Is that a Southern thing?
I don't know, but it sounded right. So it could work, and it could win, even though it's shit. Kind of.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like I think it's a wait and see thing. I didn't really think much of it either until I saw Erickson's post here that we put up here. Just talking about the who do you trust with your money situation. That could be a growing problem, but seeing a standard put together, even if and hopefully they can work out an agreement so that in the end it's hopefully the user that gets the best experience, and that's really kind of what we're hoping for here. Is we've got a situation now where you don't have to wait 7 days to swap funds and have challenges. I mean, we'll see, but hopefully this all works out. I'm hoping that it works out because we definitely need this technology. It's fantastic. I use cross-chain swaps all the time. I don't really bridge much anymore. So
I think thank you for those points, Jangle. I'm now more scared. I think in a bull market, users are always going to opt for convenience. So I think we've still got at least multiple cycles to go where someone adds in a convenience and that convenience takes off during a bull market. Then we find out if it gets wrecked eventually, and then the cycle repeats. So people are going to gravitate towards the easiest thing because that's DeFi in a bull market. And now since we are in a bull market, People are going to gravitate towards convenience. People aren't going to want to wait 7 days. 7 days is an eternity in DeFi. So we'll find out if it gets exploited. And I think like the issue, right, is when protocols become so popular and people are so overexposed to them that exploit really hurts crypto, right? So we can't have a solution like what it seems like LayerZero is doing and also have them, maybe not too big to fail, but too big to fail without it being incredibly damaging to the ecosystem.
Well, look what happened with multi-chain. To me, that's the part that's scary.
Killed
We
Phantom,
could have,
right?
yeah, killed Phantom. I mean, it. I was just reading, I didn't make it on the agenda, that Stater is no longer going to be funding SFTMX on a couple different liquidity providers for rewards. So, it's the spiral continues. I mean, obviously nothing great about it, but it's getting ugly. So, but yeah, thanks for that. Moving on, a couple more things to talk about before we head home. Looking at
Hey, real quick, SafeMoon guys got arrested. Did y'all see that? I was like,
no, I did not see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope they have time to reflect on what they've done. That's
Dirty.
terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. That's terrible.
Yeah, they're going to jail for sure. So hopefully they snuggle up with Richard Hart up in there.
All right.
He already knew.
All right, Arbitrum. Arbitrum releases Orbit, which is their layer 3 super stack. Different than what OP has with Bedrock. This is their Nitro stack, where chains can build on top and have their own what we call layer 3, and they have the settlement and scalability of the rails of layer 2 through Arbitrum to settle. Interesting idea, actually. So here's the current ecosystem of chains that are on RB Orbit. Winner protocol, which is the Gamblify project, is absent from this list, but it also is on there. So we have a bunch of these protocols that, frankly, I have heard of 0 of them, but there's some GameFi, there's some derivatives like with Dairy, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on here. So seemingly bigger than Arbitrum's superchain stack. So Optimism's superchain stack, but this could lead to something interesting. Other thing too, any changes or updates to Arbitrum's core product are automatically fed down to these L3s, meaning, and they also get full use of their tech stack, meaning with Stylus. So it means they can also do smart contracts in a variety of languages that are not just Solidity. So that's it's very interesting, and we have it here. It'll be in the show notes as to what that is. So being a part of Orbit, you get a variety of ways to get in. So really interesting. Anybody have any thoughts on how this is good or bad? What do you think, Jangle? Are they going to overtake OP as the best layer 2 again?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Arbitrum stack has been getting as much attention as the OP stack just because of base. It's just wait and see. Yep. We'll see what happens. I still don't really view either OP or ARB as long-term investable at their current points. Like, yeah. But hey, I don't view Solana as long-term investable either at its current state, and it's ripping. So that doesn't mean they can't rip. So
yeah, I think one thing I read earlier is that someone mentioned we're getting so much block space and not enough apps. So hopefully that we get
that happens. That'll flip eventually. Yeah,
I think so. We're just so early, I guess, that we need to see more of these projects kind of turn the corner, and we get more inflows back into the system. I do think with the halving that comes in, early next year or middle of next year rather, And then with the Denkun event for proto-denk sharding that happens in Q1 next year for ETH as well, we get to see a lot more scalability. Hopefully, a lot more Web 2 and Web 3, Web 2 rather institutions come down and start building more projects. We need more builders. So hopefully, when we'll see what's on the horizon when we get to ETH Denver. That's for sure. So cool. Well, one thing I read on Bankless, I wanted to share this because I thought it was kind of funny. About a month ago, we talked about the Celestia, the Celestia airdrop. Celestia being, something that could be the future of modular blockchains. Funny is not a funny aside, but an interesting aside that any protocols that are on Arbitrum orbit can also push their data to Celestia for data availability, which I thought was an interesting little touch. Anyway, they have an airdrop for TIA, which is going to be their token. The one thing that's interesting about TIA is that when you claimed it, and again for non-Americans, it's not available to American IPs. And if you used a VPN, you are not allowed to claim. So you do a variety of things to show that you are not in a US-based IP, regardless of where you're from. And VPNs were done, so people apparently were going to Canada to be able to claim their airdrop, either to their MetaMask or their Kepler wallets. It did go live with regards to trading back yesterday, and I had seen some wicks all the way up to $9 somewhere, but I don't think that lasted very long at all. But specifically, it launched around $2, I guess, and it's holding. Let's see, we're holding at 2.29. Looks like I could probably refresh this because that was 260. So there's some movement on this. So if you have an airdrop, I guess figure out what you want to do. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I don't know if this is fake or not, but I figure. I don't know.
Oh, that image, yeah, that's certainly fake. Could you perhaps go to like Earnify or something to check airdrops?
Yeah, probably so.
So I'll put that in. You can
Put
your address in there. Usually it's a tool I use to check for airdrops, so you can check and see if you got it there with your addresses.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought it was a fun thing to put together. Anyway, we'll end on this. This week we have a new Speaker of the House in the United States, Mike Johnson from Louisiana. No senior permissions or anything like that. We have pretty much a someone give the gavel to someone who has no enemies pick, and I believe he ticks all of those boxes. If you've watched, what was that movie with Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis? Zach Galifianakis, my bad. Where he was a candidate. God, I forgot what it was called. Anyway, interesting movie where they just created the only candidate available to run against Will Ferrell's reign of tyranny, bringing the brooms to Washington. So, anyway, so the best reps that are out. The best reps with regards to crypto didn't even make it past 1 or 2 votes. That would be, Tom Emmer would have been the strongest. But this does open up, Patrick McHenry, who's head of the Financial Services Committee, to go back to working on these crypto bills that they want to push, as well as, obviously getting the government funded by November 17th. So, Andrew, I wanted to start with you, sir. Any takes you have on this pick for U.S. House Speaker?
Mediocre to bad for regulatory clarity on crypto. It does not look like it's a priority, either for the party in control of the House or the Speaker specifically. I think like Representatives Emmer and McHenry were always a long shot at the current stage, but I think it is worth noting that Representative McHenry does still have positions in leadership, so that's good. But kind of his team lost to this round in my mind in the speaker fight. His team lost. We got someone that the more moderate Republicans and the more extreme Republicans just you're kind of right, Chris. I think there was like it was kind of like a no enemies pick, but it's also someone that like no one really wanted him either. So like the establishment or the former like leadership group didn't want him. And he also wasn't the first choice of the folks that forced the vote. So he is a compromise candidate that is ambivalent towards crypto. And based on what seems to be his current strategy, it doesn't seem like something that's a priority. And even if it was a priority, I think we're in for, you guessed it, more gridlock. And seeing that I don't necessarily think, unless, who knows, parabolic euphoric bull market might change legislative priorities and even turn it into like more of an election issue. But if it isn't an election issue, if it isn't something that folks can politic about going towards the election in approximately 12 months, get ready, U.S. citizens. The election cycle has started. Political ads probably tomorrow. This is our life now. Barring some big change, which could very well happen.
Andrew's got PTSD.
Probably nothing. Well, it's just like, you're not from America, Gabe, right?
No, that's correct.
What's the like time horizon of an election cycle that you're used to? Like, when do you see ads? When do you get a text on your phone? When does someone knock on your door? When are there billboards and yard signs? Like, how many days before the election would you say?
I mean, at least like 6 to 8 months, I would say. But I also think we have less of that than you do in America.
So I think for us, it's longer and more, and so much money, so many. They're going to be probably at least $2 billion just lit on fire in service at the altar of our democracy over the next 12 months.
All to get you to make a decision.
Not a decision.
Not even
the right decision.
See, but that's the thing. It's not even about making a decision. It's about taking an action, because at this point, our country is so politically inelastic that it's really just about getting everyone on both sides and everyone in the middle to be angry enough that they make sure they spend the 5 minutes in line to check a box. So it's not even about making a decision, in my opinion, for all but like the 2% of Americans that don't already know which color they prefer.
With regards to parties,
I've decided already. I know my decision.
Yes, I mean red and blue, Chris, to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
My decision is to opt out of the financial system and buy the orange coin. And then also ETH. Mostly ETH.
Orange coin, good.
That's my decision.
Orange party.
Orange party. There we go.
Hey, we should start that.
The orange party.
I think Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be on Bankless very soon. He's been doing the rounds with some crypto stuff, some tech stuff. It's pretty cool, huh?
I don't know, Andrew. What do you think about Vivek?
Or Vivek?
Hey, I think he's surged in name recognition from something like 10% of Americans to something like 15% of Americans. So that's promising for him.
Good for him.
Seems cool.
I nickname him Backpedal.
What's he backpedaling on?
Everything. But anyway,
I don't know. Like what? Like what? Tell me. Talk to me about it.
I'd rather move on to other subjects. Speaking of that,
he just seems kind of open to crypto, which is really all I care about.
I guess he is. Fed Unchanged just now, so thanks Tanner for that announcement there. Also, the other thing I want to bring out, he said that the Treasury refunding announcement was done today. So Did increase the size of the 30-year bond, which is a relief to markets. Thank you, sir, for that. Appreciate that. So we're now in November, which means we have roughly, I want to say, 5 to 6 shows before we reach our 2-year anniversary on this. So
not the 2-year anniversary of it being on YouTube, though. Just of it being
but just of this show. So
yeah.
I was wondering if maybe we should do something special for the crowd. But we can talk about that another time. Just planting that seed for so.
Well, you can't spring that on me live.
No, I'm saying if you're watching this, again, we appreciate your subs and your likes and clicking the bell to get notifications when we go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Leave us a little comment. Tell us what you think we should do for a 2-year anniversary for you, our loyal viewership. We'd love to see the suggestions.
I have an idea, Chris. Something I could do.
What can you do?
I could add up all the time I've spent with you on calls and see what percentage of my life that is. But no one would care, so we're not going to do that.
My wife would.
And that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, we could certainly do I'll do you one better, Karen. We'll do a whole Beacon merch bundle to wrap it off.
The way to get Beacon merch, live events. Next one, ETH Denver. We're gonna blow out the merch budget on this one, so let us know. Dang, dude, that freaking Uniswap beanie is clean, man.
Ain't it though?
Where'd you get that?
ETH Denver, brother. I had to schmooze a couple people.
Oh my
God. I had the secret Arbitrum beanie. I got the Uniswap beanie.
Yeah, what? I could have sworn that you had gotten that beanie in Miami, Chris. I mean,
the Uniswap was not there.
Yeah,
the joke is that it's Miami. You wouldn't.
Yeah, that was a rough one. Not gonna lie.
There's only one thing that's worth it from Miami. It is the red bird.
Mm-hmm.
The red bird.
I think it's like some tropical bird.
Yes.
Not a parakeet.
I agree. Not an iguana. We saw quite a few iguanas while we were down there.
Yeah, that was definitely the spirit animal of Miami. Goodness gracious. So many iguanas.
So many iguanas hovering around the lighthouse. Excellent swimmers they are, we found out. We thought that we had killed someone.
I think that's Cope.
You think it's Cope? All right,
I think that's Cope. That thing sunk like a rock.
I don't know.
The iguana got scared and jumped in the water. Apparently they can swim, so I think it's okay. But it really did not look like it.
No. I mean, that thing sunk to the bottom of Biscayne Bay. No idea where that thing went.
Yeah.
It's probably just taking evasive action, guys.
It was. It was trying to get away from us. We weren't chasing.
Probably returning to cold storage.
Yeah. It was revoking approval.
It was revoking approval. I love it. That's as dad jokey as me wearing my Arbitrum beanie last night out for Halloween, and we were optimistically rolling up to houses to steal their candy. But anyway, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Jangle, I turn it to you to say goodbye today.
Everybody, thanks for coming. We appreciate you so much watching all the way to the end. If you haven't already, subscribe. We'll see you next week for another rendition of the Beacon Roundtable 07.
3 chickens for life.
I'd like to think Gabe's doing it too, the 07. You are right, Gabe?
Absolutely, I am, yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. See you guys later. Have a great Wednesday.